welcome to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. Today in part 3, we're going to discuss the question that does India need a better securities regulation framework to prevent against misleading reports, the kind of which can lead to loss of millions of middle-class shareholders who can, in a sense, face losses when their entire life savings can get wiped out on the basis of malicious and misleading reports. Is the Indian law equipped to handle such things? And I have a very eminent guest joining me. I have with me Advocate Karnail Singh. He's managing partner of Circle of Counsels. That's a law firm that specializes in financial crimes and issues like FEMA, money laundering, and other SFOI, other issues. He will give us a ringside view on what all this entails. Welcome, and looking forward to some interesting insights from you on this issue.
See, there are efforts by certain elements to bring down the shares of some companies, listed companies in the stock exchange. The purpose could be the different purpose. For example, it could be short selling company, which is doing it. It could be for the extortion. See what happens. I have seen some of the cases where the person approaches a company, manipulating the statistics, because statistics is such that you can represent it in different forms. Same thing can mean different things to people if misinterpreted. So they come up with misinterpreted information, misinterpreted statistics of the company, and say, if you do not pay us so much amount, then we will make it public. Third thing is a business rivalry. One business wants to destroy the other business, and then they can manipulate the share, bring out the mischievous reports, disseminate that report, creating a public sentiment. Now, the public sentiments based on such reports can create havoc for the company for the sale and purchase of those shares, because the perception which can be created is more true than the truth. So perception is very, very important. And if such sentiments are created, then the stock markets can dwindle down for that company, causing huge loss to the company, huge loss to the shareholders, without the company doing anything wrong. That's a possibility. Now, from where such mischievous reports can generate? They can generate from foreign country. They can generate within the country itself. And then these people can use the power of social media, the power of media, to disseminate, to propagate such information. Now, it can have various effects. It can have effects on the stock market directly. It can affect that with that report, various investigating agency picking up and starts investigating that company. And that is a disaster for the company, because the company that get involved, either giving information to SFIO or to ED or to some economic offenses wing, sometimes such mischievous elements even get a false case registered somewhere. And on that basis, certain other agencies also start acting. So this is very, very serious issue which is there. Now, the first thing in this, can we stop it? The first thing is pre-publishing stage. Can a country decide that no reports against any company, listed company, can come out in the social media or media? Some people would say it is a censorship. It could be international jurisdiction where the Indian agencies will find themselves handicapped. The social media, even if checks, it is a reactive checks. Because even if you make a check on this and say that such a report should be removed, suppose the investigating agencies or the government says that this report should be removed, it takes time. And that time is sufficient to destroy a company, to bring down the shares of the company. So in my view, the first thing should be some guidelines should be issued by the government, forming the centralized agency. And anybody who has anything against a company, the report they should first send the report to that particular centralized agency, which should examine the report And only after that report is examined, found to be true, only that should be allowed to come to the media. But that will not be sufficient, because there are reports can generate from the foreign jurisdictions where it is very difficult to control the situation. Second thing is minimizing the damage. Now, here it is how quickly somebody should respond and who should respond. Is it SEBI to respond quickly? Is it some agency in the government to respond quickly? In my view, there should be centralized agency which should respond very quickly. And we should be empowered to give directions to the social media and the media not to propagate it. It should also say that we are investigating this. Till that time, there should be no share purchase or sale on the stock market, maybe 2-3 days till the time investigation is done by this the centralized agency, and then they come out with the truth to the public. And then the share market for that company should be open. It will lead to also corrective information. Then there could be punitive action. In the punitive action, we have law of torts. But in our country, again, the civil suits are pending for long periods. Civil redressal mechanism is very slow, and that will not be of any help. It may help in years to come, but not immediately. So it will not be helpful in the immediate course of action. Then there could be action by SEBI. Now, Section 12A empowers SEBI to investigate if there is any manipulation in the stock market. And that is the predicate offense in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And the ED can come into play. But this is again a slow process. This cannot give benefit to the people immediately. It cannot minimize, though the investigation could be there. Then it could be the fraud. The cases of fraud could be registered by individuals, that this particular man has given mischievous information, misleading information. Because of that, I have the financial losses. Then in India, there is no class action provisions. Like in USA, there's a class action provisions where even third party can be brought to the court, and one single individual can be brought to the court for all the people. And that's the advantage. We do not have such law to deal with class action provisions. Still, if there is international issues, for example, in some cases, the report can come from the USA or some other country. Some interested party may issue the reports, which may be misleading report. Then it requires international cooperation. Today, if you ask the international body or some other country to take action, it's a very slow process. Generally, it is from letter of rogatory, where the implementation of anything will take time. It should be that there should be international body, like, for example, we have FATF, we have Egmont groups. So there should be international body, which in such cases, where a huge damage is there to the company or a huge damage to the economy of the country, then they should immediately react. So more to act on such things. So international bodies are also required. For the long run, the person can go to the police station, can go to the economic offences wing, can go to the CBI, or can go to other agencies for registration of the case against such manipulators. But that is certainly a long-term process. It's not a short-term process. Then how the investors can be compensated? That's a very, very difficult process. The class action can help investors to be compensated by the huge penalty on the people who are doing such things. And it will help in long run. So that, because if they know there is a strong punitive action possible, then people will be deterred to come out with such mischievous reports.
One thing I want to ask you is that the Supreme Court is also hearing this issue, and the Supreme Court also was concerned that this involves savings of middle class investors. Many times when such things happen, middle class investors don't have the appetite to stay longer. So they may go out of the market once they are in losses. The rich investors, so-called, or people who can hold, who have holding power, are few. The majority, because interest rates in India are less, people invest in the markets. Do you think this is also a sort of a social problem to be dealt with as well as a markets problem? Because we deal with real humans and people here. It is a societal problem also. And keeping in mind that some law should be, or some regulation should, whatever we come out, we should keep that also in mind, that people's life savings lie in the stock market. And more so in the coming years, because I think more and more people are now investing in the stock market.
See, the middle class people particularly, they are investing for getting certain benefits. If they come out with some information, they know some information is there, which indicates that the stock market will go down, then they would certainly try to minimize the losses. And in that order, they try to sell off immediately their shares, even at the least loss, if we can say. And certainly, ultimately, it is a loss to those people till the time information is corrected. Yes. And therefore, the investors have to be confirmed whether the information is right or information is wrong. If we have the centralized agency which immediately deal with the information, come out within hours that this information is wrong or this information.
This has to be quick. The turnaround time should be quick, is what you're suggesting.
It has to be very, very quick. Otherwise, it starts maybe in the minutes, in the hours. The stock market dwindles. People start selling. They get a lot of losses. So how to minimize that time where the corrective steps can be taken is very, very important and crucial in such cases.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing a very detailed perspective on this issue and also giving your analysis of how that should be dealt with. This is an evolving situation, so we'll request your presence again because the matter is in court. It will be adjudicated upon on Monday also. This is going to be heard. So I think the last word on this issue has not been set yet, but thank you so much for your time and explaining this to the viewers. So that was Mr. Karnail Singh. He is managing partner of Circle of Counsels, a law firm specializing in financial crimes. Appreciate your joining us. Now we are joined by Senior Advocate Parag Tripathi, one of the leading counsels at the Supreme Court of India. He's been kind enough to give time and share with us his views on whether India needs a better security regulation framework to prevent against misleading reports that can lead to wiping out of savings of middle-class investors, millions of whom invest in the stock market. Good to see you, Mr. Tripathi, and appreciate your joining us. Your views on this issue, which has been in news for the past few weeks, and it concerns all of us.
Yeah. You see, the exact contours of this controversy, it is multifaceted. I'm looking at it purely from the legal aspect, the conceptual and legal aspect. I must make a disclosure in the beginning that I have in my professional life been appearing for the Adani group of companies, though unconnected with the present controversy. So that disclosure out of the way. You see, we are so far focusing on the basis as if the key here is malicious reporting or dishonest reporting. I have a different view on this. According to me, it doesn't matter whether, arguably, not in this particular case, in any case, arguably whether the reporting is malicious or not malicious. It is really like insider trading in a different avatar. What is insider trading? What is the key to insider trading? The key to insider trading is that you are purchasing or selling stocks or shares, that is securities, based on private information through a breach of fiduciary duty or other kind of trust, in respect of material non-public information. So you're privy to material non-public information. You have a fiduciary duty of sorts, and you are therefore privy to this private information, which is both material and non-public, and you are utilizing it to make money. That is prohibited as a general rule in India and abroad. Now, what happens here? There are two kinds in the realm of insider trading. There are two kinds of tradings which you can do. That is buying prior to good news and buying or selling prior to bad news. Here, the only difference is that in classic case of insider trading, it is the company which does what it has to do. Either it says that my merger with this company will not happen, so the market shares may plunge, or I will give a bonus when nobody expected, so market shares will go up. Here, you are the originator of that information. And I say it is irrelevant whether it is factually true or not. That's a separate issue. If it is factually false, if it is malicious, then it is worse. But I take a case so that it becomes a completely a non-issue. Take a case, assume in some case it is true. It makes no difference. It is no defense of a person who is indulging in insider trading to say that factually I told my friends and we bought shares on the basis that there will be a bonus of 1:2, and factually there was a bonus of 1:2. That's irrelevant. The fact is that if you are in this trinity of aspects, private information, where you have a fiduciary duty, and there is a material non-public information about the security, and you take advantage of it, you're caught. Therefore, this is exactly that. There is a private information because you have done research, which research is not available. That's your creation. Whether true, false, malicious makes no difference. You know that you're in a position to influence the investors, particularly foreign investors. And then the Indian investors will follow. If you find there's a run, it's like a run on the bank. If everybody decides today that whichever is the biggest bank in the world, we'll all go and get our monies out. At 10% of the monies going out, the bank will collapse. Nothing wrong has been done by the bank, because that is how the market sentiment is. Therefore, in this situation, what is of crucial importance is that you are privy to this private information, namely your report in this case, which you know what it is, before you make it public. It is a material non-public information, because this gentleman who has released this report has some kind of a reputation on basis in the market. Right, wrong, indifferent, doesn't matter. Therefore, and what is his fiduciary obligation? His fiduciary obligation is that he must publicly, while commenting on a functioning of a company or a group, it must be done on the basis of complete impartiality, not when you are financially invested in the outcome of your own research. That violates, according to me, the fiduciary duty. And therefore, according to me, the insider trading definition should be enlarged to capture such conduct. Because look at the stakeholders. One is, as you rightly articulated, are the individual shareholders. This will be the middle class, lower middle class who have invested their monies. See, these companies with sound foundation, sooner or later, they will come back to the original level and grow. But it's the small investor which gets wiped out in the short term, because he has only the short term to live in. He doesn't have a long-term perspective. That's one. Two, it affects the economy as a whole. Because then people will say, oh, there is something wrong with the regulator. Oh, there is something wrong with the investment climate. So when another company comes up with an investment process, internationally, you will then tell the investors, please be careful. This is India, as if there is some problem with India. There is no problem with India. You have a view, and surely, if you have a view, if somebody has done something wrong, you will deal with it in accordance with law. And this is not something which is unique to India or has not happened before. The Reliance Petrochemicals case of 1988, there was this perceived tiff between the Indian Express Group and Reliance then. And therefore, they came out just before their IPO, they came out with a huge critical article. That was injuncted. And that injunction was vacated once the IPO was over. It's another thing that IPO was also successful. But the point is, this always happens. The greatest vulnerability of a company which is doing well is before an IPO. Always happens. I'll give you three interesting examples internationally of how this insider trading works. The first one was, as you know, the great economic collapse of 1929, the economic downturn which the world had faced. So there was this great gentleman called Albert Wiggins, who was the head of the Chase Manhattan Bank, and he had shorted 40,000 of his shares. That you got to know later. So naturally, he helped the chaos on its way. That was one well-known case. The other one was of a gentleman called Foster Winans, who was a very respected journalist on Wall Street Journal. And he used to write a very interesting column. And that column was News from the Market. And in that column, what he would do is, and people started following him. So he would tell his group of group of broker friends that today I'm going to comment negatively on, say, Tripathi and Company. Tomorrow I'll comment positively on Tarun Nangia and Company. So that they could take positions, short sell or buy or sell, etc. So he was convicted. This is 80s I'm talking of. And lastly, there was a company called Inclone, which had a anti-cancer drug, which was called Arbitux. Now, everybody believed that Arbitux is a miracle and it will be approved by FDA. So the prices were rising. They got to know that the FDA will not approve it because there is a problem. So they did short selling. And when the news came, the market collapsed of that company. But these people remain unscathed. Now, this is a situation which you have to protect. In the US, to protect against this, they had what they call the uptick rule, or the plus uptick rule. The uptick rule is to stop the slide. You can't perhaps, there was some of your distinguished guests had said, I'm told earlier, that maybe some kind of a pre-censorship. That won't work because that will create so many issues, particularly in the context of foreign investors coming to India, that it will have a dampening effect that what is this? If we have a view, we have to first get it approved. Howsoever bona fidely it is suggested and it is howsoever bona fidely it is worked out. So they had this uptick rule which said that short sale can only be conducted at a price higher than the previous trade price of the stock. That is the stock's last trading price. So if the stock is going down, no more short sales. So that arrests the downslide. But this was the rule put up in 1929. In 2007-8, when they had the latest crisis in the US, they realized that this rule by itself doesn't work. So they dropped that rule. Now the view is the rule should come back. Why am I giving this example of the uptick rule? To say that there is no simple answer to this. It's a very complex problem, but in my personal view, and I know this is somewhat of a maverick suggestion, the insider trading concept should be enlarged to include this kind of shorting because it has all the ingredients of insider trading. The difference is in insider trading, you're a part of the company which is either going to declare something which will shoot it up or declare something which will dampen the spirit. Here you're not a part of the company. Your stand is, if at all, completely hostile to the company. You are perhaps only interested in making money by shorting. That is, you borrow the shares and sell them today at a price which is the market price. Then you drop a bombshell and you expect that price will collapse. And then you recoup it and make a profit. Now, this is, in my view, whether what you have said is true or not is irrelevant. If what you have said is true in the likely or unlikely event, it's for the company to face the music. But in either event, whether you're true or as many of your distinguished people who have spoken here have said, patently false, whatever it is, what you're destroying is the economy. What you're destroying is the shareholders' confidence. And what you're destroying is the great Indian success story, which we should ensure does not happen. And I think the way forward is through this tinkering with the definition of insider trading. You can give it another name, but you have to see that it still smells as sweet as far as the investor is concerned.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this perspective, which had anecdotes, examples from all over, and also giving your opinion on the same. Appreciate your joining us and sharing your perspective on this issue, which has now impacted a large section of Indian society.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.